Hey everybody, back with Thor. Some really interesting changes with Thor. So I'm going to go over those changes. Not a lot for the ranged. There is a nice big add-on. So I'm going to be covering two different play styles. One going to be mostly ranged, and the other one's going to be melee. And I'll just go over the skill changes. First change they did is Asgardian stamina is much more beefed with health, defense, and a lot of health per minute. Very beautiful. It scales amazingly. You know, it's not quite as good as Storm's regen, but it's almost right there. At 2660 or 2760 health per minute, 800 defense, and 1000 maximum health. I mean, you just can't lose. That's fat. Very good changes there. The next change is going to be in Mjolnir's flight here. You get a passive haste movement speed buff, so you get to run a little quicker. It does not scale too well. I can pump a ton of points in here. I don't. Yeah, just make it to at 16 points is 11% movement speed, where 1 point gets me 5% movement speed. So I'll definitely do the 1 point for the quick little boost to speed and take what I get. Asgardian Frenzy, this scales a lot better. The bonuses go higher and higher as you put points in. It does scale down the more points you put into it, the less benefit you get out of those points, but you're getting overall a much higher scale than it originally was. A very good change. Godly Valor has been changed. It now does energy damage, and that damage does scale quite well. It's an AoE, and it hits enemies around you, and for every enemy you hit, you restore 9.5 spirit. This doesn't cost spirit, or in this case 11 spirit. That spirit doesn't scale too high, but the damage does go up, pretty decently. It's going, let's see, 16 to 25 points of damage per point right now. I think it only goes up higher. So, it's a nice hard-hitting ability when you run out of spirit. Boom, you can fill yourself up with spirit again, and you can go. They made God Blast even better. Now you can get up to 100% critical hit chance, with full points of your Odin Forts here. You only actually need 5 to get that 100% crit chance. So it's doing 150% damage right there. Plus, for every point, if you spend the 6 points, that's 300%. I'm assuming it's working as 450% of normal damage, and this damage scales quite well because you're getting all that extra damage out of it. And at 450%, that's roughly about 2,200 damage. Yeah, to 2,800 damage. It's a lot of damage. Plus whatever modifiers you have for critical hit. That's going to be, the go-to skill if you want the hardest hitting thing out there. That's it. Whether or not it's worth it's a different story, but that's definitely the hardest hitting thing I've seen for a while. They fixed all these strikes. Now, if you look at them, everything's a synergy to each other. If you have a point in there, it gives a 1.5% damage to other skills. That's how the synergies works. That's awesome. That means you don't have to take all these hammer strikes to get damage out of Thundering Strike. You can just put points into Thundering Strike, and the damage scales. And it actually scales quite well. As you can see, 1 point physical damage 245 to 346. 4 points is 360 to 518. This thing starts hitting like a truck. It's gonna crush. So that's very, very good changes. And there's one more. They added this Immortal Combat passive power, and that's under Mjolnir, Master of Mjolnir. I don't think the skills are in the proper places. This should really be over here. Godly Valor should be part of God of Thunder. Leaping Smite should really be Son of Asgard with the other movement abilities. Everything's just kind of spread around. The ranged attacks, like, Mighty Shockwave, should be over here, but they want that scaled with Hammer Smash. I don't know why. You could scale it with something else, And, Asgardian Smite should be over here as a movement skill. And maybe God Blast. Well, that can be wherever it wants, I suppose. With this Immortal Combat, which scales quite well, you gain defense penetration, you gain defense bonus, and you gain tenacity for 5 seconds whenever you hit with a melee power. And all that goes up except for the duration, which leads into the build choice for metals. If you're going to go with the AoE, which would be like God Blast, Bring the Thunder, Asgardian Smite, Call the Lightning to bring the Thunder's damage, Godly Valor, and you'd probably want to take Asgardian Stamina. You'd have a good little AoE build there. Doc Octopus's metal obviously would pay out, tenfold for that. However, that's basically the same build as I did before, except now you can work in Godly Valor as a very useful skill, and you don't have to put points into Call the Lightning to get your stun chance up. The stun chance goes up normally with Bring the Thunder. And this Godly Valor, anybody who's doing a Spirit Burning build, you got to take this every 12 seconds, free damage and extra spirit. How can you lose? Don't know how close you got to be. Don't know the range on that. I haven't played with it. As I've been doing, Thor's Alter Ego side, I'm calling this Berserker's Fury build. It's going to be based on Hammer Strikes and the other side, which is Asgardian Frenzy. You basically have 2 Odin Force burners. God Blast, which is a good ranged ability, does a big cone of damage, and Asgardian Frenzy, which completely beefs up melee. And with this melee ability doing energy damage, and is a fighting power, and is a basic power, it allows you to take advantage of special artifacts out there to a great degree. I'll go over those in a second. So I'm just going to go over the build. And the build's primary focus is going to be spamming Thundering Strike. Kind of like a slow Wolverine that hits like a truck. Right now at rank 6, that is, yes, 700 damage to 1250 damage per strike at 1.8 attack speed. I do have plus 10% attack speed on my costume, so this is probably 1.5 attack speed. Still phenomenal. Look how hard that is. That's 1,000 to 1,800 damage a second. Crazy. And it's got defense penetration. I can't even see because it's not coded properly, but this gives you a 13% chance to stun, not huge, but a defense penetration as well, which you're going to modify that damage because now you're not getting damage reduced. So, it's just a great ability. The other build choice would be Storm Strike, much more AoE for, say, like Manhattan and large maps, but less damage on single targets. It's going to be considerably less damage for single targets. And with this build, I'm going to go over how I deal with groups. It's going to be completely different. So we got the Thundering Strike. We're going to put points into Asgardian Frenzy. As you can see, as it goes up, it's getting a lot more bonuses per point of Odin Force. I can spend 6. So that right there is giving me 15% attack speed, 15% run speed, 25% physical damage bonus, and regenerate 9 point something physical damage per point of, yeah, 9 point something physical damage as health. That's just great. And the more points you put into it, the longer the duration lasts. This is 12.5 seconds. So it does last a pretty good while on a boss. Of course, we're going to be melee. We gotta live. We gotta go with Asgardian stamina. Spamming points into it obviously gets you to 21 points. That's 800 defense, 1,000 maximum health, and 2760 health per minute. That's awesome. And of course, we want to live again, and we're doing the hammer strikes, so we might as well take advantage of this Immortal Combat. Even at just 8 points into it, it's 12% defense penetration. And, you know, that's going to be on top of whatever we're getting from here. We can't see the tooltip yet, but there is defense penetration here. 900 defense, 12% defense pen, and some tenacity. And that lasts for 5 seconds after you swing with a hammer. So that's a nice, lovely thing as well. We got our hammer all set up. We're semi-Wolverine stylish. Instead of spamming lots of little attacks, we're trying to spam as fast as possible really big attacks. And we have our Frenzy, which is a little bit better than his Frenzy. And we have some health regen, which isn't as good as his health regen, but we have a lot more defense to offset that. And then we can also get regenerate health when you hit with a basic power or when you kill an enemy on your weapon. Very good choice there, but we'll get into weapons and everything in a second. So how are we going to deal with packs and large groups and ugly Manhattanness? Well, we're not spending a single point of spirit yet, have we? So what we're going to do is we're going to spend points in Asgardian Smite. Not only will this double as our get out of jail free card, get me away from here, get me away from there, we're going to do 450 to 1,000 damage per cast in a very, very large area, almost the entire screen. It would be better if we had Doom's medal, or Dr. Octopus's medal, but we'll get into that again. And then this is going to spend a ton of mana or spirit. We only have 152. So what were we going to do? We're going to cast this a couple of times, hit the area out, and then we'll pop Godly Valor. That's our free energy damage AoE that restores spirit for every enemy hit. So we can spam this 3-4 times, pop this, and get some more of these out. And we can keep that going for a while, and then we can go into melee when things are a little bit settled down, not so many mobs on the screen. So it's kind of like a AoE close-ranged build, as opposed to dropping Bring the Thunder and popping in an Asgardian Smite here and there and refilling with Godly Valor after you did it. I'd always recommend to fly in with Asgardian Smite and then pop Godly Valor, because you're going to be in the middle of stuff, as long as there's still stuff alive. Obviously, if there's nothing alive, you don't want to burn your Godly Valor. You got to play a little smart here. We're going to put, we already got a point into the Storm Strike and Lightning Smash, and we want to put a point into Mjolnir's Flight. If you have any other extra points you wanted to put in at the end, you could put it in here just to get that passive haste. So 1 point for 5% haste is great for me, and plus 33% movement speed when not much is going on, or when you got to go someplace, you can get there a little bit quicker. That's my build. It's not really the true tanking build. I'm not doing anything with Whirlwind Hammer here for damage absorption, but you can obviously put a point in there. A point will go a long way. And you know, at 1.8 per second to absorb 80% damage, it's not a terrible skill. I just don't find a use for it because I'm not completely face tanking. When something big comes around, I get out of the way and do some damage. That's just me. And of course, we got Allfather's Boon. Nothing's changed here. It's still pretty awesome. And our build will definitely go with this boon, this ultimate power, better than a ranged will, because we're getting strength and durability. You know, the range gets the benefit of 5 ranks to all powers, but so does the melee. And you both will get the benefit of maximum health regeneration per second. So I'm just going to confirm that. This is obviously a higher tiered build. Lots of the skills are closer to level 30, so you can't pump a lot of points into them. And you'll just start putting more and more points into them as you level. As you level, you won't get 1 or 2 skills all the time. You'll get 3 or 4 skills that can be raised, and you just put the points in as you can raise. And that's it. And you set up your Thundering Strike here. I set up my Asgardian Smite here. And I have my Godly Valor. I have my Asgardian Frenzy. I have my Allfather's Boon. And that's all you got to do. Everything else is passive. This is passive. This is passive. This is on a button. This is on a button. And this is on the tree, and this is on the tree. That's it. It's a nice clean action bar. And now to go into how to gear. I've geared pretty appropriately. This isn't part of the build. I'm just waiting to be able to equip this next level, which is an Oculus Ouroboros. A lot of discussion on the forums about this. A lot of people say it's broken. Other people say it just procs weirdly. I'll tell you what it is it doesn't tell you properly what it should. It procs all the time on a basic power or a fighting power, as long as that power does energy damage, like Thor's does. Not his first ability, but his next abilities all do energy damage. If it's an AoE ability, straight AoE, not like a buff that just emanates damage from around you or anything like that, the first hit will proc it. The other hits tend not to proc it. There's a very high coefficient on the AoE static damage, like say with Call of Lightning that just hangs out on the ground and it does damage over time to anybody standing in it. Those have a very, very low coefficient, like 1 to 2% a hit. That kind of keeps it under control from being overpowered. You can imagine what it would be like on, like, say, Scarlet Witch, who can hit everything on the screen, or Storm, who can hit everything on the screen with AoE power. So, for instance, like Storm's Chaos Tempest, it will proc every now and then. It's about 5% to 10% per strike. I do see the the Thundering Tempest proc it. Thundering Hail, when it first hits, if it hits something, you will get that health regen. So I do have it on Storm, more for the +1 to rank level powers than the regeneration. But the regeneration obviously helps. It's going to help Thor immensely because we're going to be heavily melee oriented. And you know, I have a Starstone Tooth. That's a 15% chance to regenerate 240 health when you hit. Very awesome. Gives you some dodge, gives you some more health. We're going to use Dr. Doom's medallion, and everything on it is about power duration. That's what you're looking for. Why are you looking for that? Because that's going to affect this right here, Asgardian Frenzy. This will last 35%, 34% longer than normal. And that's roughly a little bit over a third, but we'll call it a third, and that would be about 4.1 seconds. So we go from 12.5 to 16.6 seconds of Asgardian Frenzy. And we also get some bonus damage, and when we're attacked by a lot of mobs, we will proc a fear that will fear everything away, so we will never be completely overwhelmed, hopefully. As you can see, I got attack speed. I re-rolled on grade 1 and 2. Grade 3 rolled crit. Crit isn't a bad skill for Thor, or a stat choice, so I left it there. It's 20,000 to re-roll. I don't feel a need to re-roll. On a hammer, this is not ideal anymore. It's not bad. You want the damage rating, and you probably could go with either plus energy, plus physical damage, or both. But what you really want is life on hit, because you're doing that melee hits, or life on death. Or, even more important, if you're working in the artifacts the way I have, you want attack speed. Attack speed is massive. If you can get plus attack speed to Mjolnir powers, you can probably get 15% to 20% on a weapon. It'll be hard to get rid of that weapon because that's a lot of attack speed for this strike, and you're going to generate Odin Force that much faster. Because you get Odin Force when you kill enemies, and you get Odin Force when you hit with melee powers. It's actually faster with melee powers than ranged powers. You do get Odin Force when you hit with ranged powers, but it's a lot more with melee. So the faster you can hit with the melee hammer, the faster you can get the Odin Force up, which means the sooner you can proc the Asgardian Frenzy. And this should work just like with Wolverine's build. You should be able to permanently be frenzied. And that's the way it is. After that, you want defense plus health. You don't really need spirit cost reductions. You're not spending a ton of spirit. You're only doing this on packs and you got a little bit of regeneration. But plus spirit isn't bad. I would go for defense, health, spirit, plus skills in that order. Health regen's not bad, but again, you really want defense. Here, obviously, I want the drop rarity and special item find with defense. Here we're going with drop rarity. The critical hit chance isn't bad, but really the defense is what we want. The bonus to all skills. And we want bonus to God of Thunder skills because every bonus to here adds more damage to Thundering Strike, adds more damage to Asgardian Smite. Son of Asgard ain't bad because we get more health, more defense, more regeneration. Master Mjolnir is okay, but you can probably get better pluses with Immortal Combat. And, you know, pluses to Asgardian Frenzy ain't bad either. And that's really it. I haven't decided a core. He's going to max out in strength. You know, a durability core wouldn't be bad at all. A fighting core wouldn't be bad at all. Speed core is alright, I suppose. I wouldn't really do it. Energy core wouldn't be bad at all. We've got a lot of energy damage going on. Really depends on your ranged or melee. You know, obviously the melee doesn't really need the spirit regen as much as it could use the durability and reduced incoming damage. So that's really it. So I hope that helped. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'm going to go ahead and go do some terminal runs with this build because it's going to be kind of playing completely different. I'm sure some people are going, no way that's going to work, and let's find out how it works. I'll talk to you guys in a minute.